The Oculus Rift is due out some point next year, and we don't know. We know a lot about the specs, but we don't know how much it's actually going to cost. And we still haven't had an exact announcement of the pricing. However, the founder, Luckey, hasn't committed to anything, but he did say that it will be upwards of the $350 that the dev kit costs. So basically, it's going to be more expensive than the dev kit itself. And he was speaking to Road to VR and said, quote, "We're roughly in that ballpark, but it's going to cost more than that. And the reason for that is we've added a lot of technology to this thing beyond what existed in the DK1 and DK2 days." And then he went on to say that they had a choice between optimizing for a low price or the best possible experience. And obviously, since the Rift is going to be the very, very first VR that most people try, it needs to be a good one. And I kind of see their point there. But it'd be interesting to see two models being attempted, but obviously, you know, that's not possible for such a new technology. He went on to say, quote, "No compromises were made in terms of quality. Get the cost down as much as you can on that experience, but make it so the Rift is something that everybody wants to use to be the best of your ability." It would really suck if you put something out there and people were like, "Oh man, the Rift is good, but it's not quite there, you know? If only it was a little better, if the lenses were a little better, if the resolution was a little better, if the screens had been a little better, then it would be great." Because you'd say, God, we could have just charged a little more and put a little bit more money into custom hardware and actually achieve that. Now, he's also pointed out that competing technology such as the Gear VR, which they have actually helped develop, as you know, will be providing the cheaper entry point into VR, so that VR isn't some huge investment necessarily. And he finished up by saying, quote, "I'm confident there's going to be VR existing at multiple quality points and price points, and with the Rift it makes sense to do what nobody else is doing, which is invest in making the best quality headset." He actually went on for quite a while regarding why he feels the Oculus Rift is worth the asking price, and I will link the source in the description below the video if you wish to read it. And if you're interested in VR or the Oculus itself, I suggest you read it. It's an interesting read. Now, the price of entry has been a concern with all the VR that we've had. You know, Oculus Rift sounds like it's going to be expensive, the PlayStation VR sounds like it's going to be expensive, and Vive does too. Now, I understand why. Obviously, I understand why. It's very expensive to produce. I get that. But it's just going to make the barrier to entry quite high, and it's going to mean that it's not going to be as huge as, say, just a console where you buy the console and that's it. And obviously even the consoles themselves are not for everyone in terms of the price tag. Of course, more people are going to buy them because, you know, they know the brand, etc, etc. But you get my point. An everyday person who is perhaps new to gaming and wants to try out VR will probably pick up the Rift and be like, "Oh, this looks so cool." But $400, whatever it ends up costing, might be like half their paycheck or all their paycheck if they work part-time. So it's definitely going to be a high barrier to entry. However, I do see where he's coming from with saying, look, this is the first device that a lot of people are going to use. If we make it a entry device, it's not going to wow you. It's not going to make you go, "Oh my god, VR is amazing." And that's obviously what they're going for. And there is already a entry VR device with the Gear VR. It's about $99 if I recall correctly. And yes, it makes use of mobile, so the amount of games is limited. But I think other developers are probably going to be aiming to do the lower price points, because all of the big three, you know, Oculus, Vive, PSVR, are all quite expensive. Especially, you know, Oculus is expensive because you've got the $400 or whatever plus the PC. Same for the Vive. PlayStation 4, we don't know how much it's going to cost, but it's going to be the price of a console. So that plus the PS4 is obviously expensive. So you get my point. It's going to be interesting to see how well it actually does with the price that it is. I think the hype is enough that gamers such as ourselves will buy it. You know, probably do pretty well in the gaming circle, but it probably won't reach too far outside of that, at least at the start. Maybe future iterations. Still, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think that roughly the 350 plus price tag is too much? It's going to really hamper it, or do you think that people will want it badly enough if they're gamers or whatever? Do let me know your thoughts. I'll see you next time.